Hi, I'm Miles. Although Johnny calls me the ManDeLorean because I imported a pretty broken DeLorean from the US when I was 16 and have been restoring it ever since. In fact, I'm still working on it now. By day, I'm a 21-year-old mechanic, and by night I have a passion for buying old cars and doing them up. Admittedly, my endeavours have been a bit hit and miss. Definitely more hit though. I'm on a mission to find other people like me, 17 to 25-year-olds with cool project cars, and go and meet them and their projects. Welcome to Generation Flex. Meet Freddie. He's currently finishing his A-levels, and then he's moving on to study songwriting and performance. But while he may be the next Ed Sheeran, that's not why we're here today. Because Freddie owns a Mini, but not, as you might expect, one of the BMW bred ones. Wow, this is stunning. It's amazing, it looks new. So Freddie, of course, the first question is, why a Mini?
Well, I have my dad to thank for my love of cars. He got me into them from a very young age, and the plan was always to get something special for my first car, not just your average Polo or Golf or something like that. And we wanted a project. So we started looking at what was affordable, what could be restored at home, and then when I was 14, we got this, and over 3 years, restored it up ourselves, and it's my first car.
It started at a very young age then?
We did. We knew how long it was going to take us, although it was tight with timing towards the end, but we only had Sunday afternoons, so yeah, we did anticipate it was going to take quite a while. So this came as a 1988 Mayfair. We've since restyled it, so it would be pretty hard to recognise it as one of those today, but yeah, it came as a Mayfair originally.
Is the Mayfair like a high trim level? Or?
I couldn't tell you, to be honest, but it was perfect for what we wanted.
So how long did it take you to find this?
About 6 months. We ended up viewing loads all over the UK, but eventually found this one down in Somerset, which is quite the ways from here, but yeah.
So you drove it all the way back, was that 300 miles?
No, thankfully we got it trailered because when we viewed it, it was still spitting petrol from the carburettor.
Ah, right, big fire hazard then.
Big one.
So was it very rusty when you got it?
A few elements that we needed to replace, like this rear valance under there, that had a big hole in it, about as big as one of these rear lights.
Well, that's a large hole.
Sizable hole. When we replaced that, we put wax oil on, so hopefully we can prevent that from happening again.
I've heard the rear subframes are a nightmare to change on this. Did you have to do it?
No, we didn't, thankfully. It's one of the reasons that we chose this car because, like you say, they are a big, big fix.
So what about the sills?
Yeah, thankfully they weren't too bad. They just needed a little bit of extra metal adding here and there. The seams were sort of the same condition, just needed perfecting before paint.
And the A-pillars, I know they're a common problem with these.
They are, and that's something that we did suffer from. The cars had new A-panels from both sides and new front wings again on both sides, which yeah, was a bit to add to the budget, but had to do it.
It's a really nice job that's been done. You wouldn't have known. Obviously had a hell of a lot of work done to it. Was it all you and your dad?
No, so we did everything except for the welding and the paints and what little electronics there are. But everything that we did do, we did right there in that barn, which was stripping the car down to a complete shell when we got it, nothing but the wheels left on it, sending it off for bodywork and paint, and while it was away, clean up the parts that we had left over and then putting it all back together when it came back to us.
I can just imagine bits scattered everywhere.
It was chaos. We have tons upon tons of plastic boxes that we tried to keep organised, but it was fairly difficult.
Yeah.
We never knew what we needed to keep or throw away, so we
Just keep everything when it comes to old cars.
yeah, that's pretty much what we did.
Yeah, you have to, because you never know what little parts you might need.
Exactly, and you don't know if you're going to be able to find a new one of that part, so sometimes it's just safer to keep stuff.
Exactly. So I understand that this car wasn't originally two-tone, it was originally all black. What made you choose to change the colour scheme?
Well, again, that was my dad that persuaded me on that one. Originally, I wanted a sort of darkish red, going for the more rally spec vibe. But he then persuaded me to go for Old English White with the black roof, and personally I love it. I'm very glad that he managed to swing me in that direction.
It is a really lovely colour scheme.
Yeah, thank you.
Wow, look at that. 998 A-series engine.
It is, so not the most pokey of Mini engines that you can get, but it's still a Mini. It's not supposed to be a rocket ship in a straight line.
How much power does this one produce?
I haven't dynoed it, but I'd assume around 40 on a good day.
That's enough for, what does it weigh, 600 kilos?
It is, I think it's about 640 dry weight, but yeah, it is enough. It moves, and it's only got 4 gears, so top speed is never going to be anything crazy anyway.
It's an A-series, so obviously the question is, does it leak?
It did. Recently blew a head gasket, so now it doesn't, which I suppose is a silver lining. But it did when we first had it, yeah.
So it looks like you've got an aftermarket rocker cover and aluminium radiator on that.
Yeah, we do. So in terms of things that we replaced on the engine, it was literally just rocker cover, radiator, coil, starter motor, distributor. So all the things that you can fairly easily bolt on and off, because we're not mechanics at the end of the day. We learn everything we know now from YouTube and Haynes manuals, so we sort of just did the easy jobs.
Yeah, replacing the ancillaries, it's the stuff that goes wrong, isn't it?
Exactly.
You had to take the engine out as well, didn't you, to do the respray?
We did. The engine came out so that we could then fit all the new stuff on. And that meant that, of course, they could paint all the back of the engine bay as well, which looks quite nice instead of that horrible foamy soundproofing that you can get.
Yeah.
Means that the car is quite a bit louder, but I think it's worth it.
Well, it's had a proper respray.
It has.
It's just those little details, like having inside the engine bay painted as well, really is those small details that bring up the car and make it factory fresh.
Yeah, or beyond that, potentially, because I know that fit and finish and quality control back in the day might not have been that of what it is today.
It wasn't. It definitely wasn't. Yeah, I assume it was, it would have been much easier to fit all the auxiliary parts with it out, because access looks very limited in here.
It is an extremely small car, not only on the exterior, but in the way that everything's put together. The packaging is actually really impressive, but that does mean that working on things is quite challenging. So to replace the starter motor, for example, with the engine in, you'd have to get a spanner on that bolt all the way down there, and then one underneath it as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of things in the way.
There
Not
are.
much room.
You've got to do things in a certain order, otherwise you can't reach, or things get stuck. And even the things that look like they'd be fairly easy to take out, like the radiator, you quickly realise there are many, many things in the way that you have to wiggle your way past.
Clearly you've done a massive amount of work to the interior.
Yeah, so whatever we couldn't source or maybe wanted to not buy new for budget reasons, we would rewrap or repaint ourselves, but there are relatively few of those elements, and essentially everything from soundproofing all the way up to the headlining is new, yeah.
Is this the original colour scheme for the interior? Because you did change the exterior.
No, we matched the interior to the exterior with this cream piping that we managed to get. The old interior was, I believe, a sort of almost brown with houndstooth on the seats that was, it needed to go. So
pretty dated.
Very dated. And everything that we did on the exterior, we just tried to tie in nicely with the interior stuff.
Yeah, well, black works with everything.
Absolutely.
Is this the original dashboard as well? Is it?
No, so the dash rails, top and bottom, are the original ones, but we rewrapped them ourselves with a leather vinyl. And then the dashboard, this wooden fascia here, that was new, but the instrument panel just behind here we took out of the old housing, because that was horrible 80s cheap plastic.
Yeah, nasty stuff.
Absolutely, and then fixed it to the back of this new wooden dashboard just to save on budget. But yeah, other than the dashboard, really, we did everything. So door cards, door furniture, new seats, new rear seat covers, although the actual foam itself is original, new headlining, steering wheel, things like the gator on the gear selector,
Seatbelts look new as well.
Seatbelts are new, absolutely. Mirrors, yeah, everything that we could really.
So what's the parts availability like?
Yeah, so one of the best things about Minis is the parts are like Lego. They're really easy to get a hold of. There are absolutely loads of spares, and that's one of the reasons why we decided to restore one of these rather than anything else. And the company that we got most of our parts from was one locally that's called Huddersfield Spares. They just had everything that we needed, and this the piping on all these door cards on the seats they managed to get in a nice cream colour to match the exterior. So that bit was custom, yeah. But no, it's relatively easy to find parts for these cars, which is just brilliant.
Well, we've had a good feel around the car. There's only one thing left to do, and let's take it for a drive.
Let's go.
Have you upgraded the brakes or anything?
No, brakes and suspension all completely as we found them, because, well, they just didn't need doing. I mean, it stopped.
So it hasn't even been, this is still the original suspension then?
Yeah, I believe so, unless it's been altered before we owned the car, which I wouldn't know. But no, I mean, everything works well enough. Obviously, you've got to press the brake pedal quite hard, so just bear that in mind. But no, it didn't need doing. And the engine also, we didn't have the budget to do performance mods to that.
Yeah.
The main part of the budget there would have been in the insurance, so...
Yeah, that's the problem. Until you get to like 25, even for me, it's going to be, like, if I do any proper performance mods to engines or suspension or whatever, the insurance just goes through the roof.
Yeah, which is disappointing, kind of understandable, but
yeah,
disappointing. One day.
Well, as long as you don't bin it.
Absolutely, that's the plan. Keep up the no claims and I'll have a 1380 in no time.
Exactly.
See, it does move.
Yeah.
It does go.
It does. It's more of a volume than a throttle, but it's fast enough. Just imagine how great this is going to be on a really narrow, windy road. Like
it's brilliant.
Twisty road.
It's the best thing ever. It really is.
It's so lively. The feedback through the steering is fantastic.
It is. I mean, the go-kart cliche is 100% true. You hear it.
You are driving a go-kart with this.
But yeah, it's completely accurate.
It's a 4-speed go-kart with 4 seats. That's all it is.
100%. That's all it is.
Well, this car was designed for a time, because it was 1959 when it was originally designed. And that was around the time the motorways started appearing. So it was really only designed for roads with a maximum speed of about 50, 60.
Yeah.
So really, this would have been perfect at the time.
No, and I have had it on the motorway, and it does do okay. It will reach 70. As a matter of fact, the top speed is about 82 miles an hour. I've only hit 80, but I'm sure those 2 miles an hour would be there if you held it in a bit longer.
Yeah.
That 80 mile an hour run was done on a closed airfield with supervision and the correct safety measures.
Yeah. I feel the back following, but in its own time. It's quite entertaining.
Yeah, the front is obviously a lot sharper than the rear with all that weight of the engine over the front axle.
Yeah, the front's just like, I'm going that way, and then the rear is like, yeah, okay, I'll sort of float along after.
I'll see what you're doing. I'll be there in a minute.
So how much do you think this is worth now?
Now I'd say it's about 15,000.
Wow.
I know, Mini prices are going up a lot.
They've gone insane recently.
Yeah, they've been going up for a while, but I also think in preparation for summer, people have, been wanting such a nostalgic, fun little car like this.
How much have you invested into this?
I'd say, excluding the cost of buying the car, probably about 9,000. So we would have made a profit if we were to sell it, not that I'm ever going to.
So you spent about 11 to 12,000 on it in total then?
Yeah, somewhere in that region, which is, is quite a lot. But if you're going to do it, you have to do it right the first time, otherwise you'll be chasing the same problems over and over.
Yeah. It's nice to know that you'd make a profit.
It is nice, not that it matters, but I'm always online looking at Mini prices, just out of curiosity, see what my work is worth.
Yeah. This road back and forth through here is really good fun.
This is my route to school every day, so...
Oh, lucky you.
I know, I get there on time every day.
I'm not surprised. Do you leave a bit late?
Yeah, I leave late every day, still get there on time.
You still manage to make up the time. It's really good.
It is.
Like, for tyres that thin,
They grip up well. It's because there's no weight. It's 640 kilograms. They're just nothing.
yeah, it doesn't even feel close to the limit. It just goes around the corner.
On rails, as they say.
Yeah. It's really nice to rev match as well.
It is. It's quite easy, isn't it?
Yeah, it just sort of flows.
Yeah, the heel and toe in this car is very, very fun. Not needed because it does have quite decent synchros, but it's fun, so I do it.
You can see why they didn't have to actually change the design much from 1959 all the way to 2000, because it's still good now.
Yeah, it's stood the test of time incredibly well.
It really has. Yeah, it looks classic, but that just adds to it. It's even better. For the money that Freddie has spent on his 34-year-old Mayfair, he could easily have bought a BMW Mini with more space, comfort and power, with extra cash to spare for the insurance. However, 2 months down the line, it would just become a car to get from A to B. Whereas that will always be special to him. The novelty is not going to wear off with that classic Mini.